Hello and welcome to PerchPeek Pods, the only place to get long-form interviews with some of the world's leading global mobility experts. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Ezeibe Agomo today, Head of Global Mobility and Immigration at Equinix. Ezeibe, you've had such an interesting run throughout your career already, such an interesting role at Equinix right now as well, and such an interesting time. Can't wait to dig into it all today. We've got so much to talk about. But before we go into that, introduce yourself to the community and tell us how you started out in the wonderful world of mobility.
Brilliant. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me. How I started out in the world of mobility. So my background is law. I trained as a lawyer, interestingly, in Nigeria and in the UK.
Nice.
And I practiced immigration law before being headhunted into an IT consultancy quite a while ago.
Yeah,
First of all, to help them get compliant with the UK immigration rules at the time, when the points-based system came into the UK. So
interesting.
got in, joined that IT consultancy, did that work, got them compliant, got the sponsor's license, and then my boss at the time shut the doors, drew the windows, and said, "Oh, by the way, immigration is not all we do." And then introduced
Nice.
me to the broader world of global mobility.
Fun.
And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Tax, I remember a bit of tax law, that's fun. Policy writing, I've never done that. This should be fun. Social security, ooh, total greenfield. Give me some Deloitte manuals.
Yeah.
I'm reading. And
That's
that was my start. Then somebody locked the door, threw away the key,
and
and
then you're
yeah,
here. Wow, that's so fun. So that was Sapient.
that was Sapient. That was
Sapient.
Sapient.
Oh, so cool. So cool. What a run. And then you've then sort of progressed from mainly on the immigration side. You brought in that tax, you brought in that policy. Tell us a little bit about your role at Equinix now, where you sit in the organization, what things look like for you.
Absolutely. So I'm privileged to be the head of mobility and immigration at Equinix. So at Equinix, the Global Mobility Program sits under the Total Rewards umbrella.
Yeah,
So here I report into the Vice President of Total Rewards,
yeah,
and I sit also on the Total Rewards leadership team.
nice.
So that obviously gives me good insight across the rewards scape and an opportunity to discuss and brainstorm across the broader Total Rewards landscape. I also have strong connections with the talent organization,
Yes.
collaborating with our integrated talent function when it comes to talent mobility. And our program here spans all things cross-border. You cross a border, you're ours.
Okay, nice, nice. And let's yeah. Well, that's a nice simple definition, and that's something that I want to start with because for those of you that aren't familiar, what remind me of the stat on how many profitable quarters Equinix has had in a row, or the run. It was something insane, right?
It is absolutely insane. I mean, I myself am beginning to lose count now. It's
But
like
I
it's like 75
yeah, it's
quarters, quarter on quarter revenue growth over 20 years
just
unbroken quarter on
yes.
quarter revenue growth. It's been again, I'm privileged to be here. It's been a phenomenally successful company,
Yes,
and
and what a
yeah,
run! And I think something because you have that connection into reward mobility's traditional home, but also that connection into talent. And one of the big trends we're seeing with our tech clients right now is a big trend towards being a little bit more restrictive on hiring. People don't necessarily want to sort of open the floodgates a la 2021, 2022 for new hiring.
yeah,
And
yes,
that's causing a big shift towards focusing on internal mobility
yes,
and trying to retain talent. And that's actually, have had some great chats with Eddie from Coronado from Uber in the
yes.
past about internal mobility. How do you think about internal mobility when it comes to your role at Equinix and how you can sort of be involved in that process?
That's a really good question. So internal mobility has increased focus at Equinix as well. So my key collaborators on the integrated side, integrated talent side, actually we have really honed in on carving out a role that's focused on internal career development and mobility that sits
Mm.
in the integrated talent space,
Yeah.
but collaborates closely with global mobility. There's another role that's focused on succession planning
Yeah.
that sits in the integrated talent space and collaborates closely with global mobility. So we've been having regular diarized conversations, strategizing in this space. And interestingly enough, we're all shortly getting together as well to discuss some more in person as we continue to build towards this. Philosophically, what we believe is, whilst we're really good at bringing talent in from outside,
Yeah.
we want to give increased focus on helping people within to understand their opportunities for growth and putting structured things in place to help enable that. And
Yes.
that may be with or without the involvement of crossing borders, but we
Mm.
all want to strategize together and understand where we might assist with development of talent internally by assisting with crossing borders, or indeed combining business travel with virtual assignments, which is
Mm.
another possibility. But it's a big focus. There's a lot of excitement and interest around it, and we've been piloting some things over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it's such a passion of mine because I think it is something that mobility programs typically under index on.
Absolutely right.
It is internal mobility. Let's get specific then. So you're obviously sitting there with your sort of mobility and immigration hat on. Who are you working on this with? Which other teams are you involved in?
Sure. Okay, so maybe I'll take you slightly a step back. So
I
when
love
we
it.
started, so initially we started seriously looking into this pre-COVID.
Mm.
And so around 2020, we went into, so this was global mobility and talent management. We're working together on some plans. And then COVID came and sort of,
Yes, scuppered things or delayed things.
all focus on that. And then there were a few, internal resourcing changes through the Great Resignation and
Hmm.
all of that. And so dial on to 2020, 2023, we resumed the conversation with talent management, working
Yeah.
with colleagues. So colleagues in mobility and talent management, a hit squad working together
Yeah.
on what products we might bring forward to the business to
Mm.
support internal mobility, utilizing career development, utilizing mobility.
Yes.
Forward on from that, we had some new leadership join the company and a restructuring where talent acquisition and talent management got pulled together into a broader talent organization.
Hmm.
And then within that talent organization, we started looking at integrated talent, which is not just the acquisition externally, but the development internally. So now our key collaborators are within integrated talent. So we
Yes.
have an internal career development leader,
Yeah.
a succession planning leader. We've got myself, someone else in my team who has always had great passion for talent mobility,
Love that.
working closely with me on this project
Yeah.
with them, as well as some leaders from our global executive talent acquisition team, all pulling together. So ultimately, the two super functions working together are from within global mobility and integrated talent. But more specifically, we've got leaders from mobility, internal career development,
This is
succession
great.
planning,
Yes. I love that.
and the executive.
I love that. I love that.
Executive.
And it's so true. I like it was fortunate to just have Mark Dirksen on
Yes.
Boofer who's and they've actually moved succession planning into his team because they're working so closely together. I love the use of the word product there. You mentioned what
Oh, yes.
products can we take to the business to support this
Absolutely.
internal mobility? What tell us more about what I know you're sort of in the building phase right now.
Correct.
Let's imagine I'm a software engineer based in the Bay Area right now. What do you want that product to be to enable me to be internally mobile? What's like the dream state?
Yes. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things we could do depending on the career stage of this
Yeah.
software engineer in the Bay
Yeah, yeah,
Area,
yeah.
right? So if you want to start from the top, if we're looking at people on the succession planning
Yeah.
side. We want, first of all, once we're clear and we've discussed and aligned on the philosophy for what sort of profile, what sort of experiences,
Yeah.
etc., we need a leader to have, we would want to have a product whereby this person can either apply or be tapped into
Yeah.
this assignment
Yeah.
that gives them exposure in a different region,
Hmm.
that gives them exposure to a different part of the business, a
Yeah.
different culture, that further stimulates a global mindset, preparing them for the next role, or
Yeah.
stimulates an enterprise mindset, giving them more of the generalist experience
Yeah.
beyond what they have. And that's tied into a measurement of the learning and the progression
Yeah.
that can tie into the evaluation for that succession role. Parallel to that, it would be good to have another product, for example, that would give the opportunity to try a role, step in to the
Yeah.
space, which one might ultimately own
Yeah.
at that point.
I
But
love that.
again, have the structure that makes that transition possible, even if that involves crossing borders.
Yes. I love that.
Going to
So,
the complete other
yeah.
end of that scale, if this person is at early stage, then at some point we would love to give people the opportunity, again, we're talking dream state, to
Yes.
trial, have tasters in other
Mhm.
places, which can then give them an opportunity to broaden their minds as to where their career might go, see
Yeah.
it run,
Love
which
that.
directions it might go, or deepen their understanding of what goes on in some other parts of the businesses that strengthens them as collaborators,
Yes.
strengthens them as broader thinkers as they're working on, or even earlier, a program like a rotational assignment that gives
Mhm.
people, we try out some of these, give people very short exposures to different places that again broadens that
Yeah.
mindset of this, learn how it's done there, bring best practices back, right? You can have a short exposure, come back, and then have a longer virtual
Yeah.
assignment from where you are. And ultimately, this does two things. This helps to incentivize and grow talent within,
Yeah.
but interestingly, also helps with the attraction because
Ex-
people looking at like, oh, these are wonderful opportunities.
yeah.
And that's
Exactly.
such a wonderful company to be part of. So
Yeah. And it really helps people visualize themselves staying at companies for 10,
absolutely.
12 years. And I always think with myself, to start my career properly at Amazon, and so many of my friends from the time are in Sydney, Singapore, Seattle,
Yes,
Sao Paulo now, because they make
exactly.
it easy to move people around internally. And it
Precisely,
is great
precisely.
fit. And I love that use of products, just making it easy for the business to say yes, not a complicated, this is going to be a expensive traditional way of doing things necessarily. It's easy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I can tell you what we did put a product in place
Yeah,
in 2023 and piloted that and it was very successful. And this
nice.
was a rotational assignment product, which allowed people to go for a very short period of time. Well, we had three
Yeah,
options. Either a very short period of time, we're talking about 1 to 4 weeks,
yeah,
or slightly longer up to 3 months, or even longer, like up to a year, and depending on the goals. And we had a lot of take up in, for example, the shorter rotational
yeah.
assignments.
I love
And
that.
people, yeah, people could apply to the program, get evaluated. There's, objective evaluation and
Yeah,
a bit more, more opportunity for
yes,
people to put their hand up and say, can I be part of that? As opposed to just having people on the shoulder.
yes. I love it. I absolutely love it. Uh,
And folks took advantage of that. We had some really great engagement, and the business unit that piloted that has now moved forward, and that's BAU now.
Interesting. Want to jump in there because I think that's something that we often hear from folks, when mobility leaders, when they're trying to set this up. In some ways, it's easier for new talent acquisition because there's only one internal team involved. It's just the hiring team. Internal mobility, there's often two teams involved. So
Correct.
when you're setting up these rotational programs, you need buy-in from both sides.
You do.
It's not always clear to mobility leaders who should be signing off, on the leadership team for this type of program. What did that look like when you're setting up these products? You mentioned getting the buy-in. If you're comfortable sharing, like
I
who are
am.
you taking
So
these products to?
I am. So that's it's a really, really good point you raise. So whilst we're doing this pilot, one of the biggest conversations we had was how do we make sure this is successful? Who has to sign off?
Yes.
Who bears the budget,
Yeah.
etc. Now, the design that we settled on for this pilot to get it through the doors, to get it tested, to demonstrate its value, was one where the approval comes from the business units that
Yeah.
wants to engage in the rotation. So as opposed to the product was like this toolkit that
Yeah.
helped the business evaluate what they were trying to achieve, how to set it up, how to measure,
Yeah.
it's like
Uh,
flat pack.
yes. Well,
Mobility flat pack.
yes.
Here
And
you
when you
go.
say where does that live? How if I'm like how do you access this toolkit?
Yeah, so basically it was interaction with talent management
Yeah.
and global mobility in conjunction with your HR business partner. So we're having conversations, remember this is a pilot stage, with the business around, hey, these are opportunities we can facilitate.
Yeah.
The toolkit's housed on, for example, the talent management SharePoint. But at the stage at which we're at, again, we are thinking and moving at quite a pace that we finished the pilot and then our ideas have expanded. We have more leaders involved and everything. The next step we're actually looking at. So there was one route where we could just publish and give access to what's available, but we're thinking bigger and beyond that already. And we're taking a pause on that to look at the bigger central possibilities.
Yes.
That can hence the in-person meetings,
Yes.
collaboration to build this out. So it's been a lot of in-person conversations, meetings, and networking, and working through the client services, the HR business partners to say, hey, this is the product we're working on, this is what we're piloting. Who's interested?
Yes.
Who's been working on similar things? Which business units have expressed interest so that we tap into existing interest and align closely with what the business already wants?
Yes. I love that.
Demonstrate value rather than trying to come and sell something fresh. That's like, hey, this would be good. I'm placing that resistance. Like, we know you want this. We can help.
Yeah.
Right?
That
and
makes sense.
Starting from that point to where we are now, where we're collaborating with our integrated talent colleagues to build it out way bigger, way more ambitiously.
Yeah, and I love the ambition, and I think something that is very closely linked to this is, people's internal awareness of what global mobility is and what it should do. People often are like, oh, I wish they'd let me in earlier. I wish they knew what we did. People don't understand it. They don't even know there's a team. You're obviously on this journey at Equinix of trying to really tie mobility into the central strategy for talent. How are you thinking about building that brand up of mobility and sort of carving your empire internally within Equinix?
Funny you use that word because there was a running joke within some of the mobility circles where I introduced myself as what was that? Emperor of Mobility. That's it.
Nice. I like it.
We're having a round table of titles, and I just decided for laughs.
Emperor of Mobility. Well, there we go.
People still make that joke.
Yeah.
But no. So the branding of mobility has been an issue.
Yes.
The branding of HR is an issue.
For sure. Yeah.
More broadly, but branding mobility has been an issue for quite a while, and particularly so post-COVID, where traditional mobility has, taken a back seat to the newer form. Cross-border remote work, increased business travel compliance issues, and all of that. So I always start from this. What skills do we have?
Yeah.
What does the business need? How can we use the sum total of our skills to bring the best value to the business? And then we market in that direction.
Yeah.
It always, that's the beginning. How can we add best value to the business towards achieving the business goals? And for me, at this point in time, that looks very much like positioning broadly,
Yeah.
which is, hey, obviously compliance is the bedrock of what we do, always will be there. Talking immigration compliance, tax, working, collaborating with corporate tax and all of that. Do not lose the compliance branding. It's important. It is critical. I always say you mess up a compliance, nobody cares about anything else you have to say.
Yes. Exactly. It's like that's
Right?
like the baseline.
That's the baseline, right? Keep us compliant. That's fundamentally, first of all, why you're
Yeah.
here. You mess that up, what is the point?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So that's foundational. But the key thing is we are not just compliance,
Yes.
right? And even within the compliance piece, realize how broad that is. We're
Yeah.
not just compliance when you are moving an existing person from A to B. We are compliance when you're bringing somebody fresh into the company. And then we realize we touch a much broader range of people than you would first realize.
Yes.
Compliance when people already in the company have visas and need to extend work without maintain that so that they retain the right to work, where that begins to trigger compliance issues for us because we are a global mobility and immigration team. The immigration piece is a big part of the identity and the branding because, again, it touches a much broader range of people and it's important. Now, flip side, talent. We are not just a tool for compliance or for moving a person from here to there operationally. We're also strategic partners when it comes to thinking about how we can help develop existing talent, create opportunities so that people can grow in their careers, which involves giving global opportunities, which involves creating products, streams that folks can access, the business can access to use in their tool bag to help develop their people, incentivize their people, and which talent can use to help attract new people to the company.
Yeah.
We are an essential part of the employee value proposition.
Yes, exactly. And I love that. It's not getting stuck on the compliance only piece. It's such an important bedrock, but making sure that you are taking those products, as you say, and being clear about the value you can add in a wider context. So critical to ultimately not just be looped in transactionally at the time of, hey, this is happening, make sure it's compliant. Be like, actually, how do we, enable retention, enable attraction, all of that good stuff.
And if I may, we put together a charter, and that charter sort of like calls out who we are and what we do. And ultimately, it says that we are here to be a competitive advantage for the business.
I love that.
Competitive advantage for the compliant and cost-effective acquisition, retention, development, and deployment of talent.
I love that. And again, where does this charter live? Is this an internal team document that you use as a rallying cry? Like, what is it? Is it a document?
So it is a document. The document lives on our SharePoint and is shared with collaborators.
I love it.
With people with whom we are having branding conversations where we're trying to explain our positioning, what we're trying to do, who we are, what we do. We roll the chart around when we explain this, and it goes into slightly more detail on each of those pieces and calls out things such as our engagement with new country entry and employee experience, creating best-in-class experiences for relocations, and calls those things out. But at the center is, hey, we're here to be a competitive advantage for you. We're not here just to block and say no. Though there are obviously compliance. You're not doing your job if you're not in a position to be saying no where you need to say no.
Exactly.
Right? But that's not what everything we do is to be a competitive advantage.
I love that.
Cost-effective and compliant acquisition, retention, development, and deployment of talent.
I love that. I love that focus because it ultimately lines up so much better with company goals in terms of that. Do you know, like,
that's exactly it. That's the point. Don't work in an ivory tower.
Exactly.
Don't go with this whole academic approach. You are part of a business.
Yes. Yeah.
And the business has goals,
and
objectives, It is a big organism. You're part of a bigger organism. How are you playing your part in that organism towards the goals?
Yeah,
That's the point.
it's so true, and it can be frustrating sometimes when mobility leaders almost are not sort of lining themselves up with overall company goals, and this is just textbook in terms of trying to set up your internal function to be
Right.
able to drive change and get stuff done. And I love the language of aligning it and going beyond compliance because it's so easy to get stuck otherwise
Absolutely.
if you don't have that. Just before we jumped on the pod, you were speaking a little bit about the Ask Me Anything sessions you were having on cross-border remote work. Tell us a little bit about those sessions, and in particular, just I think people find it of interest, like how many people have been coming to those sessions.
Yeah. Cool. So cross-border remote work, we all know how super popular that topic is.
Exactly.
And at Equinix, we, as many companies, are continuously benchmarking our policies, continuously balancing the advantage to the talent, basically the talent-friendly approach and policy with compliance and in alignment with the market. So we set up Ask Me Anything sessions so that we have an opportunity to talk with our employees across the whole company about, the policy, the reason for the policy, what compliance issues are triggered, what the process is like, and to just hear questions across the board. It's been super popular. We've had them in every region. So so the Americas region, the Asia Pacific region, and the
Yeah.
EMEA region, Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. 2 calls per region. We've had 2 calls. By tomorrow, we would have completed the second call in the Americas region as well. And
Nice.
would have had 2 calls per region.
Yeah.
In all the calls, we have had no less than 200 people on each call.
Wow.
In the Americas call, we had 500 people on, and I think Zoom said, "Hey, no more."
Yeah.
For that particular call,
I love
but there
that.
is definitely an option too. There are always more questions because we operate the questions via Slido.
Yeah.
There are always more questions than we have the time to answer on the call.
Amazing.
And so we commit to coming back afterwards with answers and FAQs. The meetings are recorded. We'll share the recordings, share the list of the policies, share the FAQs again, so people understand the policy, the process framework. And so hopefully folks come away with a sense of, oh, this is a lovely, talent-friendly approach from the company, but there are also important guardrails to safeguard compliance, which we have to follow.
Yes. I love that.
With great quoting Spider-Man, with great power.
I love that.
Responsibility.
I love it. Exactly. Make it easy for people to remember. Just it's so true. It's so true. Oh, and I think one of the things we won't have time to sort of dig into cross-border itself today. But what it does show for me is how much mobility can impact and how many people mobility can impact internally, and how there is so much opportunity to add value, be strategic within organizations. Yeah. And you've done a masterclass at making that happen.
Thank you. I mean, but this is exactly it, right? Because there is a world. Now, the majority of companies have gone the way of saying yes to cross-border remote work. I think it was the Mercer 2023 survey. I had 78% of companies have gone in that direction, right? There is a world in which you say, look, because of the compliance issues, don't do it. Just stop. There is that world, right? But then again, in my opinion, people do it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you have no way of dealing with the issues which might come out. And so it's better to do everything you can as an employer to understand where the world is at, understand what the talent mindset is at, support that with guardrails. Okay, you're going to do that, fine. But these are the guardrails.
Exactly.
These are the issues.
And stop the absolute.
Heads in the sand.
Exactly.
And in doing so, as you rightly said, it allows us to have legitimate value add impact across a much broader population than if we were to put our heads in the sand, shut the doors and say, stop this, don't do it at all.
Yes. Yeah. And that's exactly it. It's like people are going to do it anyway, truthfully. So you may as well try and put some guardrails in. So it makes complete sense. And as you're building your empire, And you've got
Oh God.
internal mobility. You've got internal mobility. You've got cross-border remote work.
Yeah.
You're helping more and more people within mobility, within the organization.
Yes.
I know you're a big fan of looking at um, automations and how you can make
Yes.
your team more efficient.
Yes.
Um, Always a hot topic for
Mm,
mobility leaders. Like,
mm.
where do you see the biggest opportunities for automation? In the work that your team and the mobility function are handling right now.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the first thing I will say is that I don't think any of us knows the extent to which we will ultimately be able to use automation to help us because
Yeah,
of current developments in AI, etc. We're all watching closely to
yeah,
see to what extent we can lean in and do this.
yeah,
But currently, I mean, compliance automation has been a lifesaver,
yes,
right? Lifesaver. I mean, when you consider the fact that at Equinix, we have a lean internal team of 8,
yeah,
lean, from a global mobility perspective. And yet, with that lean internal team, in 2023, we were able to have compliance assessments on 10,000 business trips.
wow,
Automation.
that's yeah, just
Automation. There is
yeah,
no other way you can achieve something like
yeah,
that, right? And we're talking about a system we have, for example, where you book a flight that's automated. It goes straight through to this tool that evaluates immigration,
yeah,
posted workers directive, etc.
yeah,
Shoots out guidance and advice. All that. We have the dashboarding
yeah,
around that. Sends straight through to the provider where required and to ourselves, through to our internal HR
yeah,
experience delivery team where necessary to support with the posted workers
yeah,
directive application. A lot of it just flows through.
through, yeah,
We just need to look and check and have a
yeah.
quarterly meeting. Is it going okay?
Okay, nice. And what happens if something gets flagged up? That goes automatically to provider to,
So,
say
for
there's an
example,
immigration.
depends on what the flag is. So, again, this is the continuous evaluation depending on internal resourcing and the technology continually being evaluated and enhanced. But for example, if it flags up, you need a work permit that comes to us, and
Yes,
we work with the provider, initiate, work with the
nice.
individual, and all of that. And we're
Yeah,
we're right, totally full hands, feet, head
yeah,
in that one. If it flags up currently, you need a business visa, then it comes up with advisory to the individual and directions to work directly with the provider on getting the business
I
visa and
love
what the
that.
process may look like,
I
right?
love that.
It may flag saying more consultation is required, in which case the individual is given our contact details, get in touch for more consultation
Yes,
so that we can,
help out.
look into that and help out a bit
Yeah,
more. If the information is missing, then the individual gets reminded, hey, we're missing this. Can you please log
yes,
in and provide this information so that we can fully assess
I love
this?
that. Yeah,
So that's
is that one? You just see, 10,000 requests coming through without automation. That's going to be your whole team's time. They're just going to be there going up.
you're just carrying more and more people, just imagine that
Exactly,
alone, right? You just
exactly.
have more and more and more people, all with incredible vendor costs.
Yes, but yeah, incredible vendor cost, which is not going to align well with the business ultimately, and they're going to be saying, well, yeah, why are
Yeah,
you spending so much on this?
yeah,
Is it worth it?
yeah.
And that's what we see, right? Business travel compliance is a great example of where a lot of people just don't do it
Precisely, because that's
because
the
it's too
option.
much.
The
Yeah,
option is you don't do it and you wait for the fines, which
exactly.
is not a position that you want to be.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So that's the other option. And the fines, that's
And
not worth it.
well, yeah, exactly. But it's almost because it's
And the reputational impact as well.
yeah, 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 and it's such a good example of how you take your high volume activities or what would be, and you think, okay, like, does this need to be automated, or can we just flag, certain things, and that
Yes.
just allows you to do a lot of that strategic work on do a lot of that strategic work on you know building their internal mobility, actually doing the AMA session. You just don't have time for any of that without automations. So we'll have to do another episode at some point once we've sort of seen how automation plays out in
Yes.
full, because it is such an exciting time for
That it is. And
us
there's
to be able to.
so much more that
Yeah,
can be done. And,
yeah,
so
yeah,
much more to
yeah,
integrate technologies, right? It's a hot topic conversation, right? How do
Yeah.
you integrate things? So you press one button here, it flows across the ecosystem, you
Yes.
know, between your internals and your HR system and your
Yeah.
vendor and,
Exactly.
approvals, obtaining approval internally, just connect the whole thing.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And ultimately then as a mobility function help a higher proportion of employees, which is one of the main ways that you can have more strategic impact, which is so big. As expected, this has been an unbelievable conversation. Thank you so much
Oh,
for
my
coming on
pleasure.
and dropping knowledge, and being so willing to go into the detail, because it is so helpful to sort of see the way that you're building out the function, building out the brand, and ultimately having an impact on Equinix and the incredible run that you're having there as a company. So thank
My
you.
pleasure.
Already looking forward to the next time, and good job by you.
Awesome.